Hello, and welcome for another episode of this video podcasting thing, whatever to call it. It is the second episode, but it is the first one of 2021. Crazy that we're already in the new year. But welcome, as said, to this one. And just like last time, you can either make yourself a cup of tea or coffee, or simply plug me into the earphones and go for a bit of a walk. The video might not be super exciting, so you can equally well just kind of listen and perhaps sit and look outside, or as said, going for a walk, whatever feels like a good way to spend your time. So, what I wanted to talk about in this episode is a topic that I actually used last week in my online yin class as I was teaching. And it's the concept or the topic of consistency, being consistent. Something that I think a lot of us are struggling with, and I know at least for myself over the years, back in the days when I was doing New Year's resolutions, that a lot of the New Year's resolutions kind of was unsuccessful because of the lack of consistency. And it's often what a lot of us are kind of coming back to, where we kind of need to improve our game or our intention or so. Because motivation is often what gets us started, but motivation is eventually going to run out. We then need to fall back on routines and such that we have created. Being consistent, when I was preparing for this, I actually even looked up the meaning of the word. And consistent is defined as acting in the same way over time. Acting in the same way over time. And I think this is where so many of us are struggling. First of all, we are not robots. So we, in general, have a bit of a hard time, a struggle, to say the least, to act in the same way over time. Because the context is changing also over time. So acting in the same way over time is hard in itself, but since the concept, and no, not the concept, but the context is changing, that makes it also hard for us to be consistent, because we need to take in the new context and kind of work around that. So when we talk about not being consistent enough, or that we would like to be more consistent, I think it kind of always comes back to, what is the intention? What is the intention of the action that you want to be consistent on? And how important is it to you? That's, for most of us, a bit of a game changer. So there is this lovely expression that goes, if it's important to you, you will find a way. If it's not, you'll find an excuse. I've been finding, and I am very good at finding excuses to not always be so consistent. But speaking about good quotes, consistency is far better than rare moments of greatness. And consistent action creates consistent results. So again, coming back to the intention that we have with whatever it is that we are trying to create for ourselves. If it is a New Year's resolution, if it is the intention of being healthier, the intention of prioritizing family and private time over work, or creating a specific project and the results that we are looking for within that project for work, whatever it might be. to remind ourselves about the constant or the consistent actions, and that they are the ones creating the consistent results. So it doesn't have to be these great or rare moments of greatness. We don't have to do a big bang splash kind of thing, but we need to be consistent with the actions in order to create some kind of results. So in my work as a yoga teacher, especially together with clients, private clients who feel that they might struggle with consistency. Oh my God, who doesn't, right? But anyway, one thing that I usually come back to is anything is better than nothing. Anything is better than nothing, because it is coming back to this about the consistent actions that will lead to the consistent results. And also sometimes perhaps being brutally honest with ourselves that if you time and time after are not managing to do what it is that you have set up for yourself to do, maybe it simply isn't important enough for you. Remember, if it is important to you, you will find a way. And if it isn't, you'll find an excuse. And if we repeatedly fail to be consistent with whatever it is that we have had the intention to do, maybe, as said, it's not important to you. Maybe you're trying to please someone else rather than yourself. Maybe you have not put a challenging or interesting enough goal or action for yourself. And maybe that's where you need to go back to kind of the drawing board or back to the notebook to check for yourself, okay, my intention is, let's say, I want to regularly practice yoga, or I want to prioritize my health in this new year. Okay, but what is your actions? And what is your small actions that you can repeat daily? If we have, oh my God, I've done this so many times, having this plan, this grand plan of every day practicing an hour of yoga. Like, come on, seriously, we have 24 hours in a day. How hard can it be to prioritize 1 hour a day? That works perhaps 1 or 2 days in my world. And then comes the third day, where I might have a slightly different schedule, or I wake up a bit without energy or interest, and there is no 1 hour yoga happening, and then I feel like a failure, and I don't even attempt to do it the next day. Sound familiar? Instead of thinking, I will step on my yoga mat every day. Doesn't matter how much of a practice I'm doing, but every day I'm going to stand, sit, lay on my yoga mat. That is something I can work around and manage to actually accomplish, and being reminded of anything is better than nothing. Maybe you create reminders for yourself in the place that you live. Last podcast we were talking about that, or I was talking about that. How can you create the momentum, and how can you create reminders in your environment that will help you to do what you have set out for yourself to do? Like, what is it that you want, and why do you want it? If you're not being consistent, it's because you are not exciting yourself enough to think of the results you want. So again, sometimes we need to be more clear and specific about what it is that we actually want. And know that if we consistently fail to do what we have set out to do, maybe that in itself is actually quite revealing about the intentions. maybe we need to actually go back to the drawing board and to revise and choose a new goal, a new intention, a new priority. What is it that's important and why the fuck do you want to do it? I think that's often what's kind of coming back to why we manage to be consistent or why we do not manage to be consistent. I was just seeing, oh yes, I have to share this quote as well. I've written down so many quotes, I can't just go through all of them. But anyways, this one is such a good one. Success is the sum of small efforts repeated day in and day out. Success is the sum of small efforts repeated day in and day out. How can you create success for yourself? How can you remind yourself about the fact that anything is better than nothing? Super noisy outside. We'll see how much of that is being taken in by the camera as I am recording this. Anyways, thank you so much for tuning in. And maybe this chat is even worth going back and re-listening to when you are thinking about creating actions for yourself that you want to be able to repeat. What is it that is important to you, and how can you create consistency for yourself so that you remind yourself of the simple fact that anything is better than nothing, and the consistent actions, it is what leads to consistent results. Thank you so much for tuning in. Namaste.